Right, so what we want to do first of all is get familiar with the website. So as we've seen previously, we have the login page. So if we click here, we have an email address and a password. We now need to handle all of this information and pass it in through Firebase Auth, and then we'll be able to get our authenticated user. We also have the Google sign-in provider, which is a provider that we can have. We can have multiple, but we'll just use Google for this one. And then we also have the register information. So again, we were taking the username, the email address, password, and we also have the authentication with Google. So what we need to do is we need to first of all go and set up Firebase authentication in the dashboard. So let's go ahead and do that. So if you head over to firebase.google.com, you can click get started in here. Now this will bring up all of your projects that you have built in the past. What you want to do is click add project because this is a new project. And I'm just going to name this Firebase Auth Crash Course, and you just press continue. And again, we'll be using the Firebase version 9. And if we click create project, we'll get everything configured. But whilst that's creating, let's go into our code. So now here you've got the Firebase Auth Crash Course. So you should have cloned the Git repository. And then let's just go into source over here. We have our setup in here. So we have pages, we have the home page, the login page, the register page, and we also have our routes. We won't worry about anything here because this is already configured. What we want to do is we want to create a new folder in source to handle all our third-party libraries. So let's go ahead and do that. This folder is going to be called lib. And in here, I'm going to create a new folder called Firebase, like so. And then in here, we're going to have all of our configurations and everything to do with our authentication inside here. So what I'm going to do now is go back into the browser. It says here your Firebase project is ready. So let's click continue. And now you should be presented with this screen over here. And what we want to do is click this icon here, which is web. And then in here, all we need to do is do Firebase Auth Crash Course, or you can name it whatever you want. If you want to have Firebase hosting to deploy this, you can do as well. We are going to leave that unchecked like so and then click register app. So now it's going to tell you how to run everything. So essentially we need to install Firebase first. So let's go ahead and do that. And in here, you can see we have a package.json with all our dependencies. But what we also have is a yarn lock, which means we are using yarn. So all you want to do is if you have a yarn lock file, you would use yarn. If you have a package lock file, then you would use npm. So all I'm going to do is continue with yarn. So let's close our terminal here. And all I want to do is do yarn add Firebase like so. And then you can press enter, and then that will install all of our dependencies for Firebase. And whilst that is installing everything in our Firebase here, what I'm going to do is create a new file called index.ts. And in index.ts, this is going to be the entry point for all of our Firebase configuration. So if you go back in the browser, you have this over here. Now let's just copy this, and what we're going to do is we're going to paste it in over here like so. So essentially it's saying import the functions you need from the SDKs. So we just want to delete this comment because we already are importing the initialize app. And then what we're also going to be doing, it gives us the information or the URL for the docs. We don't need them. And we're just going to delete that. And now let's save. And what we want to do is we've installed Firebase now, so we just want to do run yarn dev again, so that gets running. So now we have our Firebase config. What we want to do is protect the values within the config. These are exposed, but they will be deleted after this video is posted. So to protect these values, what we can do is put it in an env file. So at our package.json level, let's create a new file called .env. And in here, this is where we want to have our API keys or any sort of protected variables in here. So what I'm going to do is, because we're using V, we just want to put vt underscore Firebase API key, like so. And that will be equal to the Firebase key that we have in our index.ts file. So let's go ahead over here and copy this string here and Command X. And in the env file, we just paste it in like so. And then we need to import this in. So let's go back in the index.ts file. And then what we want to do in here is import it in. So what I'm going to do is declare a variable const, and we just paste in the Firebase API key like so. And then essentially it's import meta.env and then the Firebase API key. And then all you would do is just paste that variable in here. So if you do the same for the other values, then that should protect this Firebase config over here. So now we have this value over here, which is app. What I'm going to do is rename this to Firestore app or Firebase app, whatever you prefer. And then this variable now we need to use across the app or in our files that we create for auth. So what I'm going to do first of all is do a quick check. So the first check I'm going to do is essentially check the array of all of the apps if there are any initialized already. So that the way you would do that is get apps, and this is a function from Firebase, and then we want to check the length. So get apps.length, and if that is true, then we want to get apps. Otherwise, what we want to do is initialize the app which we have here. So let's do that. And then what we need to do is we need to import get apps from Firebase, and this is coming at the top here from Firebase/app. So now we have access to the Firestore app, and you can see here if you hover over get apps, it says a read-only array of all initialized apps. So essentially what we want to do is check if it has a length. If it does, then we want to get the apps. If it doesn't, then we want to initialize an app, which is with our Firebase config over here. So that is the first step complete. There's two more variables that I want to declare as well. So the first one is going to be the Google provider, because we are going to be using Google, and that is essentially new Google Auth provider like so, and we just need to import that in at the top. And this one comes from Firebase Auth. So essentially we are using tree shaking to destructure what we only need from Firebase itself, and in particular Firebase Auth. And then the last variable that I need to declare is the auth itself, which we can use across the app, which essentially is const auth equals get auth of the Firebase app or Firestore app here. So all we need to do now is import this in. And then finally, what we need to do is export everything out like so. So now we have an error. So if we hover over it, it's saying Firebase app. Okay, so what it's saying is this get apps here, it should be singular, and the get apps over here should be plural. So we need to import get app in as well. So essentially it's saying if get apps has a length, then we want to get the app. If it doesn't, then we want to initialize the app. So that is the configuration part set up. If we save this now, what we want to do is we want to go into the Firebase console now, and in here we want to click continue to console. So that is all set up here, and then what we want to do now is click authentication. So if we go through to here, we can see authentication and click get started. So we have a list of all of the providers that we can use with Firebase itself over here. What we want to use is the email password, and we want to enable both the email/password and the email link for passwordless sign-in. So let's save now. That's the first one set up. And then what we want to do is click add new provider, and we want to do Google. Again, we want to enable this one as well. And then you can put in your email address, which is my email address here, and click save. So now you can see we have them both enabled. So if we go back into our diagram, what we want to do is have this functionality in our application. So we've got the pages set up. We've got the authentication on the Firebase side set up. Now we just need to complete the code in our repository and then be able to make sure all of this syncs together in one. What we're going to be doing is starting with the email and password setup and how to register, and we will do that next.